I've confronted her and tried to talk to her, and she completely blew up in my face, and it got nowhere. It actually got worse.
Hey everyone, I'm Laura.
I'm Kristen.
And this is Souls in Bloom, where Kristen and I have open, candid conversations with each other in hopes of inspiring your personal growth and ours as well. And today we are talking crappy neighbors. I don't know how else to describe it, but
yep.
We have a someone searching for advice about their neighbor. I haven't read this. I did shoot it over to Kristen, who skimmed it really quick, but we're going into this a little blind. So bear with us. We don't know what the situation is exactly, but the title is am I a jerk for considering a call to law enforcement on my neighbor? Okay. Before we get into that, really quick, I just wanted to mention that we may be going on a brief hiatus at some point here because baby time is coming up. I'm due in a month, almost exactly a month from today. And so, yeah, just letting you guys know, Kristen and I have been doing pre-recordings of these episodes. So we're going to try to just bridge the gap. And so you guys won't even know. But it's also possible that we may have a break unexpectedly. So I just wanted to throw that out there and, let you guys know. All right. So here we go. As I was walking, I feel like I should say this in some sort of I don't know, alternate voice. As I was walking by my neighbor's house a few houses down, I respectfully asked them if they would move their truck off the sidewalk so that the wheelchairs and strollers could use it if necessary. Essentially ADA compliance. I'm reading from my phone. Them and their direct neighbor immediately stomped across the street towards me, shouting and demanding to know where I lived and work. As I stepped backwards to get distance between us, they followed us. Oh, they followed. As I tried to put a car between us, they followed. I started filming them at this point because I felt threatened. The original neighbor then got in their truck and told me they were going to follow me home so that they know where I live. They tried to make good on that threat and followed me for about 3 blocks before I lost them in the maze of my neighborhood. The whole time they're following me, I can hear them speaking to law enforcement about someone, me, harassing them outside their home. I am not at all worried about their call to law enforcement. I have video of our encounter that shows quite clearly who the aggressor was. My concern is if this person sees me in the future and tries to hurt me or my family. Should I contact law enforcement, or would that make things worse? They already called law enforcement, so I say, what difference does it make? It's already been contacted.
I feel like, though, if that person that wrote in calls law enforcement, they might say, well, there really wasn't any type of altercation, to go on, you know what I mean? I'm thinking more along the lines if they're trying to put a restraining order on somebody. I don't really think that they're at that level yet. It's just, no. First of all, the people that I don't know. Do we know if this is a man or a woman? So we can at least put a name. Should we make up a name that we can? So we're not like he, she, they.
This is Kevin.
Kevin. Yeah. So the other people that Kevin asked this to, I feel like really just jumped out of nowhere, and went to the extreme over a simple question.
Yeah.
Right? To follow you home, ask where you live, work, whatever.
Yeah, that's a really extreme response to just asking the person to move their car off the sidewalk, which is illegal anyway. So.
Right. I feel like that those people were just trying to maybe scare Kevin into not ever encountering them again, coming up to them again. So that's kind of how I feel. That's what they were trying to do, almost do say whatever, scare him into not ever coming up and saying anything ever again to them.
Yeah, for sure. That's what it sounds like. If I were Kevin, and if I was as petty as I currently am, what I would do is avoid future altercations. But if I saw the car parked on the sidewalk, at that point, I would contact law enforcement
Yeah.
and try to keep it anonymous and just say, hey, I'm just a patron walking by this place, but I see that there's a car parked on the sidewalk. I'm pretty sure that's illegal. Could you come, let the police deal with it instead of you, because they've already shown that they're hostile. So
yes, I've actually done this to somebody.
To one of your neighbors?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
story time.
Actual, like, this has actually happened. So the apartment that I lived in had a driveway that could only fit 2 cars, and those went to the 2 like seniors of the building that were there the longest. You know what I mean? The longest there and the second longest.
So you
So
can't wait. Did you have to like pay for these lots, or it's just like
no,
automatically whoever's
whoever was there the longest gets the spot, and then the second longest. So like when somebody moves out, there's like a line of people, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So like
there's
next
only
up
4 apartments.
spot.
Yeah, there was only 4 apartments in the house because it was like a old house.
Okay.
But anyway, so the crazy lady that I had the most problems with was there the longest. So she got the front spot where it was like easy in, easy out. I was there second longest, so I got the inside spot. So now it's a driveway. So for you guys who are listening, that's not on YouTube and can see me explain this, the driveway ran right alongside the house. So there was one spot, and then the other spot was, in front of that spot along the house. So you had to go in the next door neighbor's driveway and then to go around the first neighbor's car and then swoop into the spot, which was annoying. That posed a whole other problem with the neighbor because that neighbor didn't like me using their driveway to get into my parking spot. But anyway, we'll get into that whole thing because it wasn't his driveway. It's an apartment building. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the girls that lived upstairs, they were the newest. So they did not get a parking spot and they didn't like parking on the street. They were friends with the downstairs lady. And the downstairs lady said, "Oh, you can park behind me." Which now that meant the upstairs girls would be in the sidewalk, right? Because there's no third spot if you're all lined up nose to tail.
Right. Yeah.
So even if she pulled up all the way to my car, a third car would still be halfway into the sidewalk.
Right. Okay.
So
you're right.
she didn't care. She would park there anyway. And I'm like, you know what? I got sick of this. Like, that's not fair. Okay. Like, we all have seniority. We all were here longer and you don't get to park off the street. Like I think I went like 4 years parking on the street before I was able to get a parking spot in the driveway because, other tenants left.
Right.
So I'm like, they're new and she gets to park in the driveway. Not fair. So after a couple times of that happening, and I can watch, like I can see people, it was a very busy street. It was in a city setting. So people would literally have to walk around her car and go into the street and then back onto the sidewalk. So I'm like, And at the end of the block, which was only another maybe 5 houses, they were like apartment houses and multifamily houses, I guess you call it. There was a school, right? A school for like young kids. They were, I think, like not even maybe 10 or 12 years old. Okay. And I'm like, you know what? It's not fair that I had to park in the street. And then this girl comes in, she can park in the driveway. No. So I called, and this is where you have to do it anonymous, like you mentioned. I
Yeah.
called. Now, in the city that I lived in, there was parking enforcement. So I was able to call parking enforcement versus the police department.
Right.
So I called them and I pretended. I don't necessarily condone this, but this is what I did. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I said that I was a mother of a child going to that school. I gave the name, and that I walked my child to that school every day. And I was sick and tired of this car, name the license plate, because I can see it looking out my window.
Yeah.
And that I had to go out and walk into the street to go around the car that's parked in the sidewalk, and that is unsafe for me and my child. Well, you don't think it was like by the time I hung up the phone, they were outside the house.
Well, yeah, those parking people, they're always looking for people to ticket. So they're probably
Right.
like, all right, let's go.
And I decided, I know, okay, I brought a child into it, but I, like I said, I don't condone this type of thing,
Yeah.
but she got a ticket. Okay. And the guy next door that also gave me a problem, that didn't like me driving into, quote unquote, his driveway to get into my parking spot, he was outside. And I'm like freaking out that the parking enforcement lady was going to tell him something, because he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Walking up to like the girl's car. And
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, we got a call that, this car was parked in the sidewalk like it is. So that's against parking, whatever you want to call it. And, they're going to get a ticket." "Oh, well, who called? Who called?" And I'm like, don't tell her, don't tell him. But she was like, "It was an anonymous call, sir. I'm not allowed to tell you."
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
So, so whatever. She gets the ticket, and she was upstairs the whole time, so she didn't know anything. She left that later that day, and she saw the ticket, and she was getting all upset. "Oh, I park here all the time. Why do I get a ticket now?" And so the guy neighbor was like, "Oh, I saw them come here and they gave you a ticket." And then he goes, which I'm shocked. He just made up. He's like, "I think it was this lady that was walking down the street earlier, because once she walked past your car, I saw her get on the phone." And I'm like, "Woo!"
Wow. That's hilarious.
But
What are
anyway,
the odds? Did that even happen, I wonder? Or you think this guy's just
I don't know, but why would he even say that, was what I was wondering.
Yeah.
But anyway, it got me off the hook.
Yeah.
So, but she never parked in the frickin' sidewalk again.
Yeah.
And, if you live in a city setting, you should know you can't do that. Like, and
Yeah.
especially in the city I lived in, they were really adamant about parking rules and giving tickets, and like especially the alternate side parking when it snowed and stuff like that. We had to be on the other side of the street by 6 p.m. during that time, and 6:01, these parking enforcement people were out giving tickets.
Yeah, when you have an entire, like, enforcement squad
Yeah.
parking, like, you better be following the rules. They will find you.
Yes. But moral of that story is, if you're going to involve authority, do it anonymously. And you can tell them that, because obviously when you call, they're going to get your name and number when you call. You can just say that you want to do this anonymously to protect, your safety and your privacy, and they will do that.
Yes.
So if it comes to that, that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, that's true. And then the other thing you can do now, if they're chummy with the law enforcement, that's like a whole different layer of problems. But what you can also do is you can go to your police station with your phone evidence and you can file a report.
Yes.
Just have it on file. It doesn't have to be like an official complaint or anything like that, but it's something you can keep a record of, so that if they try anything in the future, you already have something on file, like, oh, they've been a problem before, I have record of them, in
Yep.
this video, like them being nuisances and blah blah blah, and now they're at it again, and so there's already that, like, that thing on file, which will
Yep.
help for a future situation. So
Yep. It'll make it more severe, and they'll actually have to check it out and maybe go to the house or whatever.
yes, they'll do something at that point. Sometimes the first call, they just don't, there's not enough evidence or not enough probable cause or anything for them to actually come out and check out a situation. But if
Yep.
you go and like have this record of the situation, now it's happening again, then they take you a little more seriously. At least they tend to.
Right, because then you can probably cross into like a harassment situation and stuff like that. But I've also, regarding that lady that lived downstairs, I've confronted her and tried to talk to her, and she completely blew up in my face, got defensive, got loud, just wouldn't even let me talk, and it got nowhere. It actually got worse.
No.
I think because people like that can see that like it's bothering you, that you actually have to talk to them about it, so they're going to do it more. I've even talked to a lawyer about it, and they basically said like there's really nothing you can do, because if she's not physically touching you, someone can say anything that they want to say to you.
Yeah.
Unless it's like if it was affecting my business, like if she was going after my business, if she was writing comments on my YouTube, if she was blasting, made up crap on Facebook groups about my business, whatever, then that would be cause for like law to come in, because that's slander. She's like defacing my business. She's like hindering my sales, customers, stuff like that. But it never got to that point because she never knew what I did, so unfortunately for me, it's like a he said, she said type of thing, and nothing really was able to be done.
Yeah. Well, at least your parking situation had a legal remedy.
I actually stopped parking in that spot because of him, and I let the girl in the basement have that spot. I'm like, go ahead, you deal with him.
Really? The neighbor, you mean? Or what?
Neighbor, yeah, the guy that was giving me a hard time for.
That's hilarious.
But it's like you are a tenant in that building with other tenants. You do not own that. And it was just the beginning part of the driveway. Like they had a whole parking lot behind their house, like their apartment house. It
Yeah.
was just like maybe 100 feet. I don't know. It was just for me to pass the one car and get into the spot behind her. And I wasn't allowed to do that.
It sounds, I don't know, but legally speaking, you have to have legal egress in other words, to get to your parking space, like there has to be enough space for your car to get there. And that is generally, even if they owned it outright, if in this like specific situation, they need to be able to like get around and get to their parking space. And if it means going your driveway a little bit, like tough stuff. Like we called a pipe stem. Apparently that's local jargon. So if you ever grew up in Northern Virginia, you probably know what that is. If you don't, it's basically a shared driveway. And the first house my husband and I owned was on a pipe stem. And so even though we owned a portion of the actual like shared driveway,
yeah,
it like we paid taxes on it. That was on the plat. That was our property. But like legally speaking, anyone can drive on that to get to their house. It was like the way it was laid out, everybody owned a sliver of that shared driveway, and we were all driving on each other's property. But legal, like you can't stop people from doing that. It's legal. They have to be able to get in and out of the driveway for safety reasons. That's just how it is.
If that was his house that he owned, I can see him maybe being a little bit upset, but like, you're just a regular tenant that lives in that house with like, I think it was 4 or 5 other apartments with tenants in it.
Yeah.
And you don't get mad at them for using that part of the driveway to get to their parking spot, but you just got mad at me. And you didn't get mad at anybody else that would park there, like the girls upstairs that would park there sometimes, or you know what I mean? Like, so what was it about me? It
Yeah,
was
it's
it
really
was
weird that he singled you out.
yeah, it was such a mess. And maybe it was because I wasn't that friendly. Like I kept to myself. We moved in. It's not like we went to everyone's door, like knock, knock, hey, and like, introduce ourselves. Like we kept to ourselves. We didn't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
That building was like a revolving door. We lived there for 6 years, and there were 3 people that moved in and out in the apartment upstairs, and 3 in the basement that moved in and out.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's 6 people in and out in 6 years in 2 different apartments. That's insane. Like, so
Yeah,
how can I keep up, really?
yeah, seriously. That's pretty wild. Well, I'm going to tell you, to be completely upfront, I think it's petty as hell that you call the cops on that chick. However, like for because she parked there, but that the being poked out into the sidewalk and making people walk in the street, that is legit. Like you can't do that. That's
And it
putting
wasn't
those people in harm's way.
right.
Okay.
It wasn't even like she was in the sidewalk a little bit. Her whole ass car was, it was just like maybe the front tires were in the driveway and the rest of the car was out. Yeah. So the whole driveway was blocked. Literally, I can picture it in my head right now, like how it looked. Like it was like her back end was out in the street. So like
Yeah,
you had to literally go in the street, at least maybe 3 feet in the street to go around.
that's not okay.
No.
I don't agree with that.
And it was multiple times, so it wasn't like I just did it on the first time. And like I said,
Yeah.
I don't condone. It's not the route to go.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, I probably would have done the same thing. I would have been annoyed and been like, you know what? No. Especially, I don't know. Did you talk to her about that? Or like, how did that whole thing happen? Like she suddenly was parking there. You said your neighbor, the one with the prime spot, was just like, come park back here.
Yeah. Yep.
That's so weird because she seemed like not the greatest neighbor. And then now she's like being chummy with this new girl.
She was nice to everybody but me. But yeah, I actually ran into her in the hall, because all of our halls connected with stairs. So she was coming down from her apartment. No, sorry, she was coming home. So she was coming up and I was leaving. So we met on my little landing. And she's like, hey, I'm like, hey. And she's like, hey, did you happen to see anyone? I got a ticket yesterday. Did you happen to see anyone that like might have been outside, like calling? I'm like, no, really? No, I had no idea. I'm like, I was on Zoom calls almost the whole day yesterday. I really had no idea what anything was going on. I'm like, what happened?
That's so funny. Okay, so I can't like I said I harass you about being petty, but like if my neighbor, I had a really crappy neighbor, and if he ever gave a reason for me to like call law enforcement on him, I would have taken it in a heartbeat because he was an absolute dirtbag. So like I can't blame you entirely.
Right. And the 2 girls upstairs were almost as mean. They were not as mean, but almost as mean as her downstairs. But the end result with the lady downstairs, which is another idea that I'm going to give for a bad neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is going on almost 6 years, remember? And we were saving to get out. Okay, so we had a plan and everything else, but that's why we couldn't just leave. And at first, I didn't want to just leave because then they win. So, but but it got to the point where I was crying every single day. She was talking crap about me to the mailman. Anybody that would come she would make up, shit about me and stuff. And I'm like, what did I ever do to her? Like, I never even like really talked to her really, like, like, I don't get it. So the owner of the building, his manager came, and she was this girl, I guess, I don't know, young lady. She was in probably my age, honestly. And I had told her about every little thing that had happened because, like you said about reporting it, I wanted the landlord to know what was going on. The landlord was full aware of this lady because she has done it to basically everyone that's only been in that one apartment, the one that's above her.
Interesting.
So,
So yeah, that now it makes a little more sense. She's just going to be bitter about anybody who's up there,
right.
probably for noise or something like that.
Probably because you can literally hear everything from everyone in that building. It was insane.
Yeah.
So the lady from the landlord's office had come over because I don't know, she was talking to the downstairs lady for something. I don't even know what. But anyway, when she was leaving, downstairs neighbor followed her out into the lobby, and she started talking crap about me to the freaking manager, like making stuff up. And I'm like,
Really?
you know what? I've had enough. So I opened the door, and like my blood was boiling. Like I felt like I was going to pass out. And I go around the railing to where the stairs lead to where they were. And I stand at the top of the steps, and I'm like, that's enough. I'm like, I've had enough of you talking about me. We're going to settle this right now. What is your problem with me? And then I think the lady's name was, the manager's name was Miriam. And she's like, okay, like and we're going to just call her, we'll just call her Nancy. Okay. I don't want to use a real name in case, whatever.
Yeah.
Nancy started freaking out. Oh, don't talk to me like that. Oh man, like acting like she's the victim now. And I'm like, no, you've been messing with me for like 5 years now, like almost 6 years now, and we're gonna settle this. We have Miriam right here, and we're gonna talk about it. So surprisingly, Miriam was like, you know what? Yes, let's all talk about this. And I'm like, out.
Oh man.
So we
Oh,
talked about it. And this is the thing. You might want to have a mediator, somebody of importance like the landlord's manager, okay, who is not going to choose sides and can hear both sides of it. And literally every time I would start talking, Nancy would start talking over me. And Marion would be like, Nancy, let her speak. And then again, it was just constant, like she would just like she didn't want me to tell the truth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So about a half hour into like talking about things settled down, and Miriam's like, okay, I'm gonna let you guys go, but I'm gonna go, but I want you guys to keep talking, and then I want you both like separately to call me afterwards because I got things to do. She's like, Kristen, are you okay? Nancy, are you okay? And we're like, yeah, fine. You believe that conversation lasted 3 hours?
Oh my gosh. What did you discuss for 3 hours?
And I recorded the whole thing because but right before I stepped out of my apartment, I put my phone, I just put on video and just hit record. I was too flustered. I'm like, I don't know, video, record, whatever.
Yeah.
And I just kept it like on my side. And yeah, 3 hours. But guess what? Things were squashed. She had a lot of misunderstandings about me. The a-hole neighbor next door made up a bunch of crap about me to tell her to hate me. And because he had his own thing against me.
Yeah.
And then so we talked about all of that. And she's like, well, he said you did this. I'm like, no, I didn't do that. And I would explain, like, it was just like mind blowing, like how much stuff she, like, I guess was wrong about. And when I cleared it up or talked about whatever situation that, happened, it didn't really happen that way, or he told her something or whatever. Like there was this one time, for example, her car had died. Like she went to leave and the car was dead.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like a porch person. He sat on his porch all the time. He was like the neighborhood hawk. Like he saw everything, knew everything, was in everyone's business, was always outside. And so he comes over, he's like, oh, maybe I can help you. Like I can jump it or whatever. So then I hear him say, she's like, oh, I don't know how it's dead. I just drove it a few days ago, whatever. And he's like, do you think that girl upstairs did it? And she's like, oh, you know what? Maybe she did do it. And I'm like, how the hell did I make your battery die? Like,
seriously.
Like, how did I make your battery die? What did I do? Get in your car, pop the freaking hood, and take your battery, or put a dead one in? Like, what? And she believed it.
Oh my gosh.
So that was
What
like,
is this guy's deal? Was he like retired or something? Had nothing better to do?
well, he was on disability,
Uh-huh.
and so was his wife, and they weren't old. They were like in their 50s. And so they were both home all the time on disability and whatever else. And they just sat on their stoop and just watched everyone and gave everyone SHIT. And I always said I felt bad for the people that lived in his building. And
Yeah.
like, what does he do with them? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like, geez. And there was this really cute old lady that lived there that I always felt bad for, like what she must have had to deal with over there.
Seriously. I mean, if he's causing that much drama across the driveway, like,
Yeah.
that's so wild that he would like plant these little seeds in people's heads about other people.
Yeah. What for like for fun, for entertainment, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's really weird.
Yeah.
And
So
inappropriate.
3 hours, but we hashed out everything calmly, surprisingly. And basically she just had the wrong idea of me. And then get this, it all stemmed from one situation that happened when I had first moved in. Okay. So the neighborhood that we lived in was a historic district of the city. So the historical society of the city did this event every December where it was called, I'm not going to say the town name, where it was called Kristen Illuminated. Oh no, where's your camera?
I'm still here. I think my battery just died. You can keep talking. I'll just switch the battery out.
It was called, no, it wasn't called Illuminated, was it? I don't know. It doesn't matter. So what it was the historic houses in the neighborhood could sign up, and then the historical society makes like a map, and then people can buy tickets to go visit these houses and go into the houses. And it was around the holiday season. So these houses would get all like, jazzed up and stuff for the holidays. And it was all like, my building that I lived in was built in 1884. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
So you can just imagine the history and the beautiful houses in this. Oh, there we go. The beautiful, like how beautiful these houses were from the late 1800s, right?
Uh-huh.
So she had asked me, and this is when we were cool because I had just moved in like that October actually, and the event was in November. So we were fine. We were cool. And she had said that she put the apartment house into the tour and was wondering if we would be okay with having our apartment open for people to come see also. Like, so at first I was like, okay, sure. That's kind of cool, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, things went on, and, she's like, oh, you have to sign up and do this and do that. And I'm like, okay, fine. And then after thinking about it and talking about it, or talking over it with Kyle, we were like, well, maybe that's not a good idea. Cause we had Nico, and what would we do with him for an entire day? Like all this event went on, and bad weather. It's December. People are going to be trekking in and out of our apartment. Like, I don't know if I want that. And like, I don't know if I want people seeing what's in my apartment, like the whole neighborhood. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
decided not to sign up. And that day, we weren't home. Like, we made sure we weren't home, and we even took Nico because we didn't want him getting all excited and or stressed out with the people up and down the steps to go to the upstairs apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And then we come home, and she like swung open her apartment door because now she's on the, you know, the first floor, the lobby level, and she swings open her apartment door and she's like, why weren't you like a part of the tour and blah blah blah. And she like thought, she's like, I didn't know, and I told all these people that they can go in your apartment, and the apartment door was locked and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I'm really sorry. I'm like, we just thought it wasn't going to be, you know, good, whatever reason, XYZ. And
Mm-hmm.
like, well, it worked out really well, and we had all these people. Meanwhile, the mud on these, you know, the beautiful wood steps, like the, you know, going up, was all the everything was filthy, you know. And I'm like, oh great, you know what, I'm glad I didn't, because that's what my apartment would be looking like right now.
Yeah, seriously.
So turned out during that 3-hour talk, she
Mm-hmm.
thought that I had just like blown it off, and it was something against her, that's why we didn't sign up, and that because we didn't sign up, it made her look bad because she had told everybody that they can go into my apartment and nobody could go in. And so her hatred towards me stemmed from that single moment, just because we didn't want to be a part of the tour of the neighborhood.
That is wild. What
Even
it like?
even though
Okay.
even though I apologized and explained myself, she's
Yeah.
still like, I don't know.
Okay. So my mom and I, we have a tradition in my hometown. We go on holiday home tours every single year. It's the same thing. People
Yep.
open up their houses. Sometimes they're historic, sometimes they're just like new builds that people are showing off, whatever.
Yep.
But the thing is, every single house, you put on like little booties, like little hospital booty things, or you take your shoes off.
Right.
And there's a person, like a tour guide, in every single room that people are going in. Was there
Not
anybody
with
there
ours.
in your?
No. It was a
That's
free
so
range.
crazy.
It was a free range thing. So you would go to the historical society to pick up your map, you know, and it gave you a list of everyone's address that was participating in it. And then you literally just went on your own. You could either walk, you could drive, you know, whatever. And you just show up. And obviously the owner of the house is there. A lot of people had food and drinks and music and stuff like that. And like you said, it's definitely a lot of showing off.
Yeah.
But I did this 2 years in a row. Like, we walked the tour, and like you said, you either take your shoes off or there were booties. Not in my building. The mud was ridiculous on how much was all over the steps and like my landing to go up to like the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what my apartment would have looked like? Forget it.
No, there is no way I would volunteer for something like that. Not a chance, especially without there being someone present to like make sure my stuff is okay.
Right?
Like, who's to say they're not going to just start rummaging through your stuff, or like taking jewelry off your freaking dresser, or like what? Like, that's so, it puts you in such a vulnerable position.
Right. And now I think about it, it wasn't like, a lot of the homes did have obviously like the upstairs maybe closed off, or certain rooms closed off, like with like a chair or whatever. But for the most part, the owners kind of walked around with you. But like, in that situation, would she have went up with them? Like, I don't know. Or was it just a free range? I don't know.
Yeah,
But
what if
I
there's more
wasn't,
than one person at a
yeah,
time?
right. And I didn't want to risk anything. Like, we had just moved in a town, in a city that we've never, like, well, we've been to, but we've never lived in. We don't know like these people and what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one incident
just ruined it for the rest of the 6 years, huh?
Yeah. But the whole mediator thing, like, if that's something that can happen, like someone of authority, not necessarily a police officer, but like, I don't know if that, unless you live in an apartment.
It doesn't
Houses.
sound like Kevin lives in an apartment. It sounds like he lives in a
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
In that specific situation, there's just not a whole lot you can do as far as, I don't know, just keep your distance from that neighbor. There's really, I don't know, that's a
Yeah.
hard one.
Because
But
if it wasn't for the mediator situation, it would still be really bad because me confronting her made it worse, just like what Kevin did. It just like irritates them even more.
Yeah. This story I feel like is not relevant, but I'll tell you about my bad neighbor. He wasn't so bad that I could call the cops. He didn't do anything like against the law, but he was a horrible, horrible neighbor. And as it happened, he was the realtor who sold us the house. Like he was basically the woman who owned the house we bought passed away, and she left the house to her 3 kids, and her 3 kids just wanted to sell it and like split the money and move on. No one was interested in this house. Well, they hired this real estate agent who lived across the shared driveway. Okay, so like our house is looking at his house like that. We were facing each other. Mm-hmm. His name was Jeff. I don't remember his last name, but it's irrelevant. We started calling him douchebag Jeff because he was. And so DB Jeff, I don't know, it was the sales process is what made him hate us. And it's because when we moved in, like we offered so fast, because when we were buying houses at that time, the market was like insane. Okay. We probably looked at least 20 different houses. Wow. And we probably put contracts in on at least 5 different houses, at least, and then got beat out like every time. So when this one popped on the market, same day, my husband and I went and looked at it on our lunch break and wrote a contract on our lunch break the same day it was written. I mean, the same day it was listed, just to like try to have the advantage. And like, oh my gosh, I remember when we left the house and we were like, we can make this work. Like, well, let's go for it. There was another couple coming up the driveway to like go see it. And we're just like walking by like, yeah, what's with the staircase in the middle of the house? That's really weird. Like, what a horrible place. Like just trying to negatively talk to like plantless seeds and these other people said. Yeah. Anywho, so right off the bat, the DB Jeff was like playing games with our contract. Like he was supposed to give an answer in like a specific allotted amount of time legally. Mm-hmm. And he stretched it out like a couple days past that, because I think he was waiting to see if any better offers would come in. Yeah. And so eventually he accepted it, which was great. But we had some things that had to be, like, we got the inspection done. So like if you've never bought a house before, typically, not always, sometimes you buy the house as is and you just, deal with everything yourself. Yeah. We had an inspection, like contingency that it had to pass, because like if there's anything major wrong and we can't afford to fix it, like we don't want the house. So the inspector came and there was like a handful of things that had issues, but one of the biggest issues was the garage door. The garage door was solid wood and it was a gorgeous garage door. However, it had a lot of wood rot going on. Mm. And so the inspector was like, you're going to have to replace this garage door. It's like literally rotting through. We're like, all right. So we had it written into our contract that the garage door would be replaced. DB Jeff talks to our realtor and tells her, like, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. Like all these things on your thing will be taken care of. So we come back to check the house out like a few days later after he supposedly had replaced the garage door. And it's the same exact garage door. He had someone come in and just paint over it white, painted right over all the wood rot. And painted all, like, it wasn't just that. There was different parts of the house that the wood was rotting. He just had someone come and paint it. He didn't replace a thing, even though it was written to our contract. Right. So our realtor contacted him and was like, What's this? Like,
Yeah.
you just painted everything. This doesn't solve the problem. The wood is still rotting underneath that. It was soft, like you could poke it and like it was just like falling apart.
Oh no.
And so very reluctantly, he says, "Well, I'll give you money to get I'll give like the buyers money. They could pick out their own garage door." And so she, she tells us that. I was like, "Well, that's fine. Whatever. We'll get it." He goes on the internet, finds the cheapest garage door he could, sends us money for this garage door. I mean, this thing was like a flimsy aluminum thing with like no insulation whatsoever. And like is like, well, here you go. Here's the money back for the garage door because this is the garage door you can get. Like a wood garage door would have been so much more. It would have been way nicer, first of all.
Yeah.
He finds the chintziest piece of crap garage door he can find and sends us money for that. And there's nothing written in the contract that says the door has to be like equivalent to the one that was there.
Yeah.
So he took full advantage of that. And then, so after we moved in, I mean, there's more crap like that, but anyway, that was like the biggest thing. After we moved in, we lived in a neighborhood with an HOA, which I will never do again.
No.
He was calling violations on us. Like, I swear, it was like every other week. He would call the HOA, complain about our house, and we would get these like letters in the mail from the HOA that like we have to paint our gable vent. I didn't even know what a gable vent was until this letter. It was like a vent up at like the peak of houses that's just like for ventilation for the attic, and I guess attic, not addict. Unless you have an attic in your attic. But anyway, so the vent, there was like paint chipping off of it. And he called the freaking HOA on that. So then we had to go get up there and get a new gable vent. So we replaced our own gable vent, which by the way, we had just moved in. So if this was anything was an issue, it should have been taken care of by the real estate agent selling the house. Instead, he waits till we move in and started calling us on violation after violation.
Oh my God.
That like he should have known about and dealt with when the house was listed. You know what I'm saying? Or like disclosed it or no. Instead, he just withheld all of it. He called us all these on separate occasions. The gable vent, a paint job on like a railing in the front of the house, the paint job around the chimney. I think the chimney itself like had some sort of aesthetic thing, and all of this was aesthetic. Like it was nothing major. It was it was like every few weeks he would just look at our house and find something to complain to the HOA about, and the HOA would diligently, send us letters about that. And since we lived on the shared driveway, like sometimes we would park in our own grass because we only had, the way it works is like the driveway splits. So like the driveway itself is probably only like a car and a half wide. And then the driveways up to people's houses, depending on what they had, would either be 2-car wide or just one single car. Ours was just one single car. We could never fit like 2 cars in the driveway because like we left work at different times. And it was like, if I pulled in first, like in the morning, he would have to back out so I could get out and go to work or whatever. Yeah. So sometimes we would just park on the shared driveway, but like off to the side, like on our grass a little bit, like in our own grass, just like 2 wheels in the grass, plenty of space for people to like get around the car. And he called us on that and called the HOA on that one, even though technically it's legal because it's our property, but the HOA didn't like it. So they had something to say about that. It was just like one thing after the other. And he himself, oh my gosh, he was such a horrible human. I'll never forget. It had to have been the first year we were there. We had like 2 major snowstorms, maybe even 3, like one after the other. It was like 12 inches of snow and then like 18 inches of snow and like a few more inches of snow, which like in Virginia, it's not totally unheard of, but to get like 3 major storms back to back is a little unusual. Yeah. And of course it happened this year, right? And so during one of those ones, can't remember if it was the first or second heavy snow, but my husband had gone out to go shovel the driveway and we got ours taken care of. And the neighbor had shoveled their own driveway out. Well, I looked out the window just, because I was just looking at the snow or whatever, like seeing what, if Troy had made progress, like whatever. I'm just looking out the window. And I can see across the street, one of the neighbors, who's very sweet, was shoveling DB Jeff's driveway. And he had a double wide driveway, for the record. Neighbor's shoveling his driveway. And I look up and I can see him in his window looking down at the neighbor. Like he's peeked through the blinds. And I can see his face looking down at this neighbor shoveling his driveway. And I'm like, is he going to go help or like, what is he doing? He was just watching. And lo and behold, I'm just like kind of keeping my eye on the situation. Like my blinds are wide open. I'm just kind of like looking at the weather. I'm keeping an eye on the situation. The second the neighbor finishes his driveway, DB Jeff comes down and is just like, oh my gosh, you shoveled. Wow. Like, I'm telling you, he waited so that he did not have to lift a finger waiting for the neighbor to shovel his driveway.
Poor neighbor.
Yeah, the neighbor was being sweet. The neighbor had no idea because this guy just had like a vendetta against us for whatever reason. He was a jerk. And so what happened in that situation, because like there's no moderator to like, moderate the situation. And what ended up happening is that douchebag Jeff, bless his heart, had his house foreclosed on, got booted out. And so as soon as he moved, all our problems ceased to exist. Yeah. We never had any issues with the HOA anymore. Yeah. The new neighbors that moved in were super duper sweet. They're just like a super duper nice couple. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So this is what a good neighbor is like. Yeah. So anyway, so time took care of that problem.
Yeah. That's the other thing is, and you can move out too. I know obviously owning a home is way different. You can't just move out. But, that's what we ended up having to do at the apartment because we were able to. But, there's some, like you said, like sometimes you can't do that if you live in a house. But you just got to maybe just ignore it or try to have a conversation. Maybe have like another neighbor help. Like, I don't know. Like what would you do? Like, what about, I wonder if the HOA would. No, probably not. Like, come and talk to you both.
I guess maybe that's something we could have tried if we really wanted to, but like, we didn't want to have the HOA involved any more than they already were. Because we already like felt like they're kind of sticking their nose in business that they didn't need to, just for these little petty things. But like, I feel like I've said the word petty like a million times during this podcast. Anyway, it was just, I don't know, because I guess we could have turned around and probably done the same thing to him, but like we never, I don't know, I have like a thing against like dropping myself down to somebody else's level that's doing it to me. But like in retrospect, I should have like given him a taste of his own medicine or like, I don't know, something. But then it would have just escalated though. Yeah. So I don't feel like that would have really been a solution.
I didn't do anything like against, the downstairs lady. Because she was so like full blown attacking me all the time, every day. It was something that I felt like if I did anything at all, it would just make it a million times worse because like I've tried talking to her and she got defensive, yelling, screaming, jumped down my throat. It's like there was no talking to her. I've even seen her go crazy on like the maintenance that used to come and do like the lawn and shovel and how she would get in their face. I even watched her go outside and get in one of the maintenance guys' face that was shoveling the front stoop and put her finger in his face, yelling at him. And I'm like, dude, this lady, there's something wrong with this lady.
Yeah.
She was just like, so if you weren't her friend, like right off the get, like the girls upstairs were, but would you want to be her friend? Because I saw how they had to live. Like they couldn't even go outside in the backyard without her coming out there and joining them. They could, like, it's like what would you rather, like her hate you or her like you? Because they're both really extreme.
Yeah, she sounds like crazy pants. I don't know. There's like certain situations that probably just distancing yourself is the best answer
Mhm.
because
Yep.
like that she's probably one of those people that would have been the best solution really.
And that would probably work. Like I feel like when I had my job like at the office and I was gone for the day, I felt
Mhm.
like it wasn't as bad because I wasn't home in the same building with her all day long because she was a photographer that barely ever left the house. So we were both in the house once I, left my job, and I think that made it worse. But when I was
Mhm.
working and only coming home like in the evenings, I feel like it was a lot less like with her on my case. So,
Yeah.
like you said, like stay away from it, like ignore it. And I did, like I ignored it, but she would just, be always, I would come down the steps and with the dog, and when I got Dallas, and she would open up the door and be like, your dog is scratching the stairs as he's coming down them and stuff. And I'm like, I would literally just ignore her and just keep going out the door. Like it's just,
Yeah. I feel very fortunate that when we lived in an apartment, we didn't have anybody like that. We definitely had loud upstairs neighbors, but it was like they were never too loud, too late, or anything like that.
mhm,
You could tell they had kids just like running amok above our apartment, but
yeah.
overall, we didn't really have a problem. The biggest problem we had was with the freaking apartment complex themselves, who sent like they allowed a tow truck through to check cars for their inspection stickers.
What?
Even though I was parked in a spot, I paid for a parking spot there.
Yeah.
My car got towed because the sticker was expired, like in the middle of the night. I was freaking livid. I was like,
That
"What the hell? Is this even legal for them to just go take my car from a park? It's not on the road."
right. That's
Apparently,
messed up.
yeah, that was not cool. And
That's
I did complain to the apartment complex, who gave me half my money back for the towing, but I still had to pay the other half to the tow company to get my freaking car out of impound.
oh my God.
I know. I wasn't even driving it. It was in a spot.
Is that even legal? I don't even know. Like
Apparently, I mean, there's,
apparently.
you know,
Or maybe they knew the tow
insane.
truck guy and was like, hey, let's get some, we want some extra cash. Want to
Yeah,
go in
maybe.
on it?
Maybe. I guess I suppose if because technically it's their property, so I guess if you're parked on their property and they're like, "Hey, there's an expired car on my lot. You guys can come get it if you want." Like I am sure that you're probably right that there's some financial incentive for the apartment complex to
Oh
let this
man.
tow truck in and just start freaking towing cars away.
Yeah, I've never heard that. That's nuts.
Ugh, freaking Northern Virginia. You could not pay me enough money to live there again ever. There is no sum of money. You could tell me all my financial needs will be met for the rest of my days and my husband's days and my children's days and my children's children's days. I would never move back there. Like you no. Be like, I'll it's fine. I'll figure out something else. I
Yeah.
don't you
I
can't.
mean,
There's nothing.
when I moved out, okay. So when we got this house and we moved out, before we moved out, I wrote a letter to like the new tenant, and I put it in the cabinet, like on one of the shelves in the kitchen cabinet, and
Oh.
I explained the downstairs neighbor.
That's
And
hilarious.
I explained, obviously Cliff Notes. I didn't want it to be like more than one page. And I
Yeah.
just explained like basically like beware. Okay. And I don't know if they ever got it or if like, maintenance came in and did a cleaning. I don't know, and found it. I don't know. But
Mhm.
I wanted them to be warned, because she's
Yeah.
a crazy. And so we left in May. We found out the girls upstairs left that June, the following month.
Oh,
So
wow.
she had 2 new tenants to be a nightmare to.
I wonder if they're still there.
I
I
don't
can't
know.
imagine well, maybe they are still there. You know she's not going anywhere.
Oh my God.
Not anytime soon. That's clearly she's picked her spot and she's staying there for as long as she can.
It's
Man,
nuts.
I
It's like,
can't believe it took you 6 years to get out of that place.
dude, I think back on everything I dealt with and how I cried almost every day and how like okay, so when the basement had a new tenant, she went outside and started telling her about me as if I'm the bad person. I didn't do anything. I would just literally, like, at that time I would go to work, come home, go to work, come home. When I worked, my own business, I would be inside all the day. You know what I mean? It's like I didn't do anything. It's not like I smoked cigarettes or smoked weed or was loud or had parties. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
she would just make up all this stuff and how horrible of a person I was to this new girl and her baby. So I flung open the window and I was like, Nancy, stop talking about me. It's not true. And I'm like, if you keep this up, I'm going to, press charges, whatever. And I was yelling. And the poor girl that moved in, she was probably in her early 20s. She like looks up at me and she's like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And she like runs into her apartment. So
Oh my gosh.
I slam the window down, whatever. And Nancy goes back in the apartment, up the front stoop and in her apartment. A couple days later, I had seen the girl go into her apartment. So I ran down there really fast and I knocked on her door because Nancy wasn't home. And I apologized. And, she invited me in and I just briefly told her, I'm like, look, I'm sorry. I was not yelling at you. And I just was like, this is this and this and this. So she's like, it's okay. She goes, I kind of had a feeling that she was like that. And all the things she was saying was just so overwhelming that, like, why would she be saying these things to me? She's going,
Yeah.
but yeah. So it's like either and I found out that one left shortly after, a few months after.
Oh wow, that's not long at all.
Yeah, because she had told, because we ended up exchanging numbers, and she had told me that there's been incidences with Nancy and her in the backyard because it's a mutual backyard, but for me and the top apartment to get there, you have to go outside the building and around. For Nancy, it's straight out her door. And then for the basement girl, was up a couple steps and she's in the basement. So I guess they were both outside a few different times and had like altercations or whatever. So it's like either you befriend her and deal with her craziness, or you fight her and really fight and have a war basically, or you move out.
So did any of this change after you had your conversation with her?
Yes. So I probably should have talked about that part. Things were fine. It was like night and day. She would say hello to me. She would, if we're passing, like, because, I would come out in the lobby to go outside. It's like she had to know who it was. She'd always swinging that door open, to sit in. Hey, how's it going? Or, in the summertime, we'd sit out on the stoop and she'd have to leave or come home and she'd be like, oh, hey, how's it going? Whatever, blah, blah. And it was fine. But I forget how long it was. It was definitely only a few months when we moved out. And I didn't tell her. So she was probably like, what the hell? Like,
And suddenly you're not there anymore. Oh, that's funny.
Because she never bothered Kyle. It was just me. And I always would tell him, like, why don't you stand up for me? Why don't you go down there and talk to her? Why don't you, when she's like, because she would say stuff to me with him right there. And he wouldn't like say anything. And he would always say to me, if I talk to her, I'd probably be going to jail afterwards. So he's like, it's just best, you know. And then once we got once we started saving, we're like, let's just save, let's just get out of here. And, you know, it took a good solid 2 years to, you know, get everything situated. We did everything secret. You know, we were moving stuff out when she wasn't home. So she literally had no idea until that truck pulled up and we were loading everything into it.
That's hilarious. Did she
But
say anything to you then?
no, because I was scared of that. And I basically took Dallas and my sister and my mom, and we had already packed my car as full as we could, and my mom's car and my sister's car. And we went to this house and we unpacked what we had and told Kyle and my dad and my sister's husband, you deal with the rest, because the apartment was pretty much cleared out. That's how much we were able to move when she wasn't home. So
No,
she
wow.
had like, unless other people told her, she never said anything to us. Like she never said anything to me. Hey, what's going on? Are you moving out? I heard, you know, people seeing you with boxes, stuff like that. No, nothing. So we were able to get the apartment almost fully cleared out, except for like the big pieces of furniture. And that's when I had Kyle do it, because I'm like, she's not going to say anything to you because she never has this entire time. So he said that she didn't come out at all because she was home when we moved out. She did not come out. She did not say anything. The girl upstairs, one of the girls upstairs had left, and Kyle and her passed each other up on the steps. They said hello to each other. Nothing. She didn't say anything to him, and we left. Deuces. That's it.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean,
That's so wild.
I wish I had that like mediator, moderator situation sooner, because maybe I wouldn't have been in hell for so many years.
Yeah. No kidding. I
But
know. It's like it's hard to know what to do because I'm sure you had the thought of talking to her earlier. I mean, it sounds like you tried to talk to her, but like you can't talk to crazy sometimes.
no.
So, you know.
And I even had Kyle with me thinking that maybe she wouldn't freak out because he was there. No, she still freaked out. And we literally said like maybe one sentence, and she started just attacking, verbally attacking, you know, throwing stuff in my face that I do that she doesn't like. And I'm like, you know what? Forget it. And like we started walking up the steps back to our apartment, and she's still like yelling, like as we're going up the steps. I'm like, okay, just forget it. Like, I don't even know why I tried.
Well, I'm glad you talked it out eventually, but man, talk about too little too late. Like,
Yeah. But, you know, it is what it is. And I'm in a better place here. And, you know, it was
yeah.
a rough road. I did enjoy the apartment itself. It was beautiful. The like neighborhood, I love the fact that we can walk everywhere, that we had the river three blocks away with like the waterfront and all the restaurants and stuff. We walked when we had Nico, we walked him everywhere. When we got Dallas, we walked him everywhere. So everything was amazing. Like, I'm not gonna regret living there. It was just dealing with her mainly was just
Yeah.
literally a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, at least now, I mean, you know, you're offering advice to the people out there who may be in the same situation. So at least by being there first, maybe you can help somebody else through it. Maybe that
Yeah.
was the whole purpose of it happening to you.
Yeah, and there is a lot of things, you know, people can do. Go like attacking also is definitely not what I recommend. Really think about it. There's a way around everything. There's a way and a timing. Maybe timing is good too. Like, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry. I'm always yawning these days.
That's okay.
Yeah, like having those conversations when you're like heated and in the heat of the moment is probably one of the worst things you can do because
Yeah.
that just escalates the situation and
And
makes it hard.
fighting back is the worst too. So
Yeah. So you really got to process things. That's really any fight you're having with somebody is try to get away from it while you're heated, have that cool off period, and then think logically about how to approach it. In this particular situation with Kevin, I think the best thing to do is just to what you did, basically back off and get away from it, because it sounds like you were about to get ganged up on, honestly, in this situation. This is a little different, a little more extreme. So I think the original advice of backing up and, you know, removing yourself from the situation, not having future altercations, and letting the cops deal with it, I think is probably your best bet.
Yeah. And if it's just like a parking situation like that, where, well, he said that they were parked in the sidewalk, right?
Yeah, they were parked up on the sidewalk.
Pick your battles. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I had to learn too with this lady. Pick your battles. If it's not like directly affecting you, let it go. Like same with DB Jeff. It wasn't directly affecting him. So he should have just left you guys alone, you know?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
But you know, some people can't. But I would just pick your battles. If it's not directly affecting you, gotta learn to let it go.
And yeah, especially in this situation where it sounds like if you truly felt your life was threatened, it's possible that it was. I very much believe in gut feeling. So
yeah,
definitely don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to be, you know, getting physically injured if these are violent neighbors, you know? Yeah, like Kristen said, just pick your battles, leave it alone. If it's not, you know, a parked car on the sidewalk is very annoying. It's not safe and all that. But I don't know. Even me personally, if I were in the situation, if this was truly me, I was trying to be civil, it exploded in my face, whatever, I would back off and probably not even like acknowledge the car situation for like weeks. And then call, because if they know where you live now, if they followed you home, I know you said you got away from them, but I'm just saying, if they figure out where you live, I would want that time gap between this incident and then calling the police on this incident, or on like a same, you know, parking infraction. And you know what I mean? So it's not like, okay, well, he asked us about this car today, and the next day here are the cops to talk to us about this car. Like, you're going to call yourself out by acting too quickly on something like that. So I would just let it go. And sometimes it's the situation where like you've put that thought in their head, and like, even though in that moment they're like, screw you, I will park where I want to park. Like, you never know. It may be one of those things that they think about, and like, okay, well, if this guy's noticing, it's possible that a cop will notice, so maybe I should move my car, kind of thing. You never know. But I would leave it be for the time being and just stay away from those neighbors. For your own safety, and then let the cops deal with it next time. But I would, like I said earlier, do the report, submit the report, or something. Just have something on file, you know.
Agreed.
Just in case. So.
Agreed.
Final thought on that guy's problem. And your situation is totally wackadoodle. I don't know what to say about that. Lady's crazy.
It's over. That's what there's.
It's over for you, maybe not for the new residents that have moved in, but
unfortunately, but fortunately, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
You know, I did warn them if they got that note. So
I would love to know if somebody did get that note and like how they would react to it. I would be like, son of a biscuit, really? Now I got this crazy neighbor. I just moved in.
Yeah. I'll never know. I mean, unless I literally go knock on their door and ask, hey, did you get that note I left you 3 years ago?
Yeah, you can't very well do that. But I'm glad you're in a better place now. And
me too.
Yeah.
And hopefully Kevin can be too.
Yes. Hopefully Kevin stays safe and everything works out there. But
we wish you luck, Kevin.
Yes.
Let us know what happens, if anything.
Yes. I would love to follow up on that story. All right. Well, we've got an hour and 15 minutes. Can you believe that? That's crazy. Maybe slightly shorter than that, but anyway. All right. Well, as always, I enjoyed talking to Kristen. Enjoyed talking to you. If you guys have any advice you'd like from us, please leave a comment, or you can email either of us anonymously. We would be happy to address any questions you have about any random topic you want to talk about. As long as it's not too intense or something we don't feel like we could, discuss,
Or we're not like medical
qualified
Yeah.
to discuss, I guess you could say. But yeah, our emails are both always open. So yeah. All right. On that note, thank you guys so much for joining us, and feel free to surf the channel, see if there's other episodes you want to listen to if you're not done hanging out. And otherwise, we'll see you back here, hopefully, in 2 weeks with a new one. So thank you guys so much. Yep. See y'all then.
Bye.
Bye.